video, we'll learn about the index of method for searching for primitives in case of an array. So in this video, let us learn about a different method that will work for reference types as well. Now if I want to find the object pertaining to the name scene, I can make use of something called as the find method. So what I will do is, I will define a new constant and will search for the scene object, or for the object pertaining to the name scene. So scene object, and I will say users.find, and for each user, and this can take optional arguments as well. So if I show you this, it can take the element, then it can take an index, which is an optional argument, then you can even pass an object as well. As you can see, it says you can pass an object as well. So then we can say I'm interested in finding a user whose name is scene. Now if I log the scene object to the console, and let us go back to the browser to see the output. So now you can see we are getting the entire object pertaining to the name scene. So we get the name as scene and occupation as full stack developer. So the find method is available on every array, and it is a very important method in the sense that it takes an argument, which is a callback function in this case. So let me show you this. So as you can see, the find method is taking a callback function. Actually it's an arrow function. As you can see, you can use anonymous function, normal callback function, or normal functions as such, but I'm using an arrow function, as you can see. So this callback function is taken as an argument by the find method, and this callback function will take an item each time as it cycles over the array, and then compares the name property of each user with the name that we are targeting. So the name that we are targeting is scene, and it is basically iterating over the objects that are there in the array, and then comparing the name property for each of those objects with the name that we are targeting, which in this case is scene. So you can pass up to 3 arguments to the callback function within the find. The first argument, as you can see, will always be a single object of the array, which in this case is user, though you are free to use any name of your choice. The second argument will then always be the index of that single object. The third argument is the array on which you have used the find method. Again, it is an optional argument as well. Now one thing you must be wondering about is that who is invoking this callback function that is within the find method. Now it is JavaScript which is doing this invocation under the hood. Find will execute this callback function for every element of your array, and for each execution it will pass in the element that it is currently looking at. So for each invocation of this callback function, it will basically pass a user to this callback function each time from your user's array, and then we'll compare the user.name, which means the name property of a user, with the name that we are targeting, which is scene. So that means the element that it is currently looking at is user, and then we can also pass index of the element and then the full array as well. Now the best thing about find method is that you can use it on array of any types. So even if it has primitives, you can use the find method, and for reference types you can see it works fine as well. Again, just like index of, once it finds the first perfect match, it will stop there, and it will not return all the fitting elements but only the first one. Now one important point to keep in mind is that the find method will return exactly the same object with the very same structure and the same memory location. So whatever object that you are getting back is not a new object, it is the very same object that is sitting in your array. Okay, so in this case we will get this object back, exactly same object that is sitting at the very same memory location. It's not a copy of it, it's not a new object, exact same object we are getting back. So let me show you this. So what I will do is I will mutate the scene's occupation, and you will see this will get reflected back in the array as well. So scene object dot occupation, I will say YouTuber and teacher. and then I will log the scene object to the console as well as the users array to the console. So let me go back to the browser to see the output. Now as you can see, the occupation did got mutated. Earlier it was full stack developer, and this is not a copy of the object that we have mutated. It's the original object that got mutated. So now the occupation has changed to YouTuber and teacher, as well as the original array is also mutated. So you can see here at the index 0, we are having the object, the very same object that got mutated. So name is set to scene and occupation is YouTuber and teacher. Okay. So this is how we can make use of the find method, and it works well for primitives as well as reference types. Now as you can see, on logging the scene object and the entire users array, we get the same very object in both cases. Now you will see the name property of the scene object got mutated at both the places, inside the scene object as well as the original array from which we found out the scene object. I hope I made it crystal clear. Then we also have something called as the find index method. Let me show you this. So let me make some comments here using the find method, using the find index method. So I will define a new constant and name it as const scene sitting index, and I will say users dot find index, and for each user that is there in the array, I will say user dot name is one that we are targeting is scene, and then I will log the index at which this object is sitting, which pertains to the username scene. So let me log this to the console and go back to the browser. You can see we are getting the index 0 because you can see scene is sitting at the index 0. Okay, so we can find the index at which a certain object is sitting in your array using the find index method. So this works well for reference types as well as primitives as well. So in this case, we will not get the first fitting match item in the array, but instead the index at which the match is found. So if I now log scene sitting index to the console, you can see we are getting the index at which scene is defined. So we get 0 here because the object pertaining to scene is sitting at index 0. So this was all about the video on finding elements inside an array of primitive values or reference values using methods like index of, last index of that we discussed in the previous videos, find and find index. So if you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up, and please guys do share the channel with your friends and colleagues. This would give me fuel to keep bringing such content. So please become the source of my motivation, and also you can find the link of our Discord server down below. Let us catch up in the next video.